the perception of Trump is really one of somebody who doesn't have much idea of what they're doing and who is leaping from issue to issue to issue as they come up and really reacting rather than being proactive. Um, there are some areas of concern, um, and for example, the use of the Moab in Afghanistan was perhaps not of itself of great concern in terms of international humanitarian law or weapons use, since it does seem to have been used, in a fairly unpopulated area against a military target. But it's more, what does that mean for the future, and is this what we're going to see? New weapons being brought forward and used, and what circumstances will they be used in, and what kind of policy is there behind this? I think the same concern is evident in the attack that happened on the village in Yemen, only a couple of days after Trump became president. Again, what's the policy behind it? In that case, a lot of civilians were killed, and it seemed that maybe this is a gloves off policy for the military, and what does this mean for the actions around the rest of the world? In terms of the arms trade, I think that probably hasn't been something that has been noticed very much here in the UK or in Europe. The one thing that has been, because of our concerns in the area, is the removal of restrictions on sales to Saudi Arabia. The bomb sales that Obama had put a block on just before Christmas, of the guidance kits, and that was something that was much noticed, because it's likely to have an effect on UK policy. We're on the edge here of stopping sales to Saudi Arabia. There's the court case going on, and so the Obama restrictions had had a big political effect here, and I think the Trump removal of restrictions similarly will have an effect. Yeah, I think at the moment, for us at least, it's difficult to discern a trend beyond, gloves off for the military, and less restrictions on sales. That sort of interpretation of the America First slogan. Certainly, talking to people in the Foreign Office here, they don't really know what to think. Their default position is to be a good ally for the United States and to do what the United States would want in any given circumstance, unless it cuts completely across UK interests. And at the moment, what they're saying to us is they're not really sure what it means to be a good US ally, because they're not sure from day to day what policy the White House is going to be pursuing. So they're not sure themselves what to do, and the lack of appointments at the confirmable level in the State Department doesn't make that any easier. I think they need to start behaving like an administration. They need to get those appointees in place. They need to have policy behind the actions. And I think we saw the interview with Trump this weekend, where he said that he didn't realize that governing was going to be as hard as it is. This job is much harder than his job running golf courses and building towers. And he just didn't know that was going to be the case. And I think they really need to crack on now with getting that apparatus of government working so that allies can work with them where that makes sense, and policy debates can be had and solutions found. Because without that, it's going to be a long 4 years. Well, I think more specifically, perhaps, around arms sales and the use of arms on the battlefield. Um, it's very difficult for European allies as a whole to stick with the US when there are incidents are occurring where civilians are killed, where it seems as if restrictions on missions have been, if not lifted, then at least loosened. We're seeing possibly with drone use across different countries, with the Air Force in Iraq and in Syria, that it looks as though some of those restrictions have been lifted, and that the Trump administration possibly believes that the price of beating ISIS and Al Qaeda is more civilian casualties, and that will cause a rift with European allies. And so not going down that road would be the advice.